So, ready? What's going on, everybody? This is the O.C.D crew again. I'm Chris.
I'm Otis.
He's laughing already. And I'm Daryl.
That he is. Okay.
All right. So today's going to be pretty interesting because our previous podcast had talked about, had mentioned a few things. We were talking about spirituality, right? Mm-hmm. And among the O.C.D crew, I would probably have to be the nayest of sayers, the critic. In particular, I have my reasons for it, but I guess we're going to get into it today because I thought it was an interesting topic that we should talk about. Mm-hmm. How does spirituality influence anything in terms of fitness for these guys? I'm really interested, but I'm more interested in just what they believe. I know they're believers. I understand that they have their passions. I get that. I am interested in hearing about that. So we're just going to start with that. Daryl. Oh. I've known you for years, man. And since then, I know you've been a God-fearing man for the longest of all those times. Mm. And I would just ask, so what exactly does spirituality mean to you when we talk about it? What does it mean?
Believing in something, believing in something that will govern our existence. There has to be more than this short time that we're on Earth. And there is a difference between spirituality and religion, okay? Major difference. I always joke, I say, I grew up in a mixed household. And people say, oh, your mother was white. No. My father was Catholic and my mother was Baptist.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
You never knew that, right?
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I know there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm like, aren't they all part of?
Okay. All right, Chris. You've been in a Baptist church. Have you ever been in a Catholic mass?
Oh, I have, and they are totally different. Baptists are on their feet. It is live. Mm-hmm. It is kicking. It is like a club.
Praising the Lord.
And in the other, it's more of a reverence sort of a.
And you have Holy Communion during the Mass. People that don't know what a Mass is, all it is a 45-minute service. Okay, I went to Catholic school, but at the same time, I still had to go to church, like Baptist. I was an altar boy in Catholic school, but I still had to go to Baptist. So, like I said, I came up in a mixed household, and I don't attend neither one now, but I do attend services online, and I do believe there is a God that is governing us and our existence, and we're here for a purpose. No matter if the purpose is to save the cat on the street or to save a nation, we are here for a purpose. We don't know what that is, and we probably never will, but I do believe there is a hereafter. Oh man, what do you think?
Wow, that was deep.
Right.
So to answer the initial question about spirituality and religion, I agree with you. There are differences. To keep it brief, I believe religion is more man-made thing, where men kind of make rules based on histories of help us distinguish between different things. But all that stems into spirituality of there is a higher being. Some people call it universe. Some people call it Allah. Some people call it God. Some people call it Yahweh. I mean, there are different names for them.
It's all the same.
It roughly means all the same, that there is something, like Daryl said, governing us, make sure that we understand morals, right and wrong. Because without this, it'd just be anarchy. There would be zero purpose. So that is my thing about spirit. That's my idea about spirituality. Yeah. To give you a little background, I didn't grow up in a religious household at all. It was kind of like, hey, be free. No, I didn't. I really didn't. My mother got into it later. We dabbled in it, we dabbled in it a little bit when we was younger, but it was not.
Okay.
We had to go every Sunday Bible. No, we did it and then kind of
then slacked off.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. So I didn't become religious or a Christian until like after my mother passed. That's when I actually got saved and did all that. And I kind of ran into the typical thing a lot of people have that think like me is like they start asking questions. When you start digging, you start getting questions, but some of these answers are not making too much sense. It's like, this is not making any kind of sense. I don't understand it. And the more you ask, the more they kind of stop asking questions. This is how it is. So it's like, so it kind of drove me away from the religious.
It turned you off.
I don't want to say it turned me off.
It turned me off if you pound something in someone's head.
Well, okay. Well, it was more so it got me to dig a little deeper into my own studies and figure out what exactly is expected from me based off the text in that you read off that. One of the texts are the Bible. There are other texts out there, but outside of the Bible. I mean, that could be another podcast, but there are other things that kind of lead you into things of thinking. Like that, I said, we do have a purpose. We are very intentional. We're not just here by mistake. We are here.
We are intentional.
We are here to solve some type of problem. So that is the.
I hope so. I hope so.
That's the goal, to solve some type of.
I really hope so.
Solve somebody's problem. So that kind of. I hope that answered your question, Chris.
You know what's interesting? If I may, gentlemen. I mean, since we're all revealing things. I love the answers that you gave me, because one of the things that I guess we are all in line with is the idea that there's a difference between what spirituality is conceptually versus religion and religiosity. The way that so for those people who know me, and for those who don't, I'm just gonna let you know, I consider myself agnostic. I was born and raised in a household of belief. My mother was Episcopalian, though she didn't necessarily go through the tenets of the religiosity element. She was always spiritual up until the day that she died. She was always a spiritual person. We attempted to go to church a few times, but I guess I was a little kid and I couldn't sit still and like the hats and place up. But
big kid.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie. I was that kid. It's like, that's a funny hat. Why is she wearing a hat? I'm like, and then it was like, you're not supposed to wear the hat in church. I'm like, all these rules came about. It was just like, what? But for those of you who don't know, I attended a Catholic school when I was in grade school. I attended a Catholic high school, Bishop Lockwood Memorial High School. My mother, at one point or another, my mother went to a nunnery. At one point or another, before she had me, my mother was a part of the was trying to become a nun. And then at the last minute, I think maybe to my benefit, she left, and then she didn't do it. But my mother was very well versed in the scripture and very well versed in the text itself. And so reading from the text was always interesting, because there was always these interesting stories that I was taught had lessons to them that themselves were not necessarily like word for word true, but had lessons and morals to them, as many stories do, many stories that are worthwhile have. And a lot of it's funny that you mentioned things, Otis, because like when you say that you had questions that couldn't be answered, I started delving in and having questions that couldn't be answered. And then I didn't like the responses I was getting, like, this is just the way it was. That's just it is. It's word of law and that's it, move on. And I'm like, I don't want to move on. If you don't have an answer for me, just say that, but don't tell me other things. This is probably where for me, it started getting more acrimonious when I'm like, I want answers and I'm not going to stop till I get them. And if you don't have them, just say that. Don't BS me. But in my opinion, I'm not saying that it was always that. So the reason I set this up is because like my mother had always told and taught me that there's a difference between the idea of religion and spirituality, that the religion were the set of rules that people usually go by, to try to get to the point where they can have a sort of spirituality that's good for them. Everyone's spirituality isn't always the same, and that there's a community to it, and that you adhere to these because of beliefs that you choose, that you find and understand. And some of them that you don't understand, that's where we started sort of parting ways. I'm like, well, what about the ones you don't understand? The idea that you can't eat shellfish, the idea that pork somehow is right. We start getting further. But the point is, like I said, those were the questions that I had, right? And so I found it interesting that I wanted to find answers, and sometimes the types of answers I would get were not really fulfilling. So what I started doing is I started noticing that people who I associate with, people who I love, who I care about, are also spiritual. And I always wanted to know more about that. Their spiritual journey, their spiritual journey through religion. So if that's something I'd actually like to ask. There is a question in this, and the question would be like, so how did you find yourself in terms of your spirituality when you compare it to religion? Because, you know, you guys both said that there's a difference for you. Do you find that one opposes the other? Yeah, let's go with you, Otis. Like, I think you might have something.
Okay, so, that was a very long-winded question. What's the question?
The question itself is, from religion, how did you find your spirituality? Because you said that for you, there was a difference. You didn't have maybe like the same rigid religion.
How did you compare? That's what he's trying to say.
How did you come to your spirituality in terms of through religion? How do you see is there connection for you, or do you find that you're spiritual despite not being religious? That would be, I think, the question I would have in terms of that.
Okay. Great question.
Seems loaded.
It is definitely loaded, but I'm going to shoot that shot anyway.
Go for it, bro.
So to bring it back to the genesis of it, ironically,
but intended.
Yeah, maybe, but what really, like I said,
no, I'm sorry.
Not that well.
Genesis, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but what really got me into the whole religion and spirituality more so was, like I said, was fitness. Once my mother passed, it was the fitness that kind of got me into it, and I started getting mental health into it, and I was introduced by my wife you should read the Bible. So I was like, you know what, let me read the Bible. And I remember the first text I read in the Bible was the book of Job.
Wow.
And it explained how bad things happen to good people. If you never read it, people just try to peek at it. Well, not you, but if anyone's never read it, just kind of peek at it and just take it as a story text and take all the other stuff. It's
torturous, man. It's torturous for you.
Yeah, so that was the first book I read, and it kind of let me know that bad things can still happen to good people, and God's still aware of it. So it kind of helped me embrace it. So to bring it back to fitness, what I was doing is when I was going through it, I was starting to use fitness as a mental meditation, and brought me into more connection with God, my creator, with me. And that was the only time where my head was quiet enough that I can listen to him speak to me. So before, when I'm outside of fitness, my head is very out there. I have a very noisy brain. So it's a very noisy brain. So, and only there's when I get to channel everything in, I get to focus on the here and now. And I started hearing different messages through that. So I started linking fitness with spirituality, and I started reading more and more about the text. And the more I read about it, it was less about all these rituals and more so just having some type of communication, some type of relationship with the one above. So that's how I started linking, and I started seeing the difference between one and the other. And I said, you know what? Hey, it was fitness that really did it. And then I started, breaking it. Yeah. So I started breaking it down more and figuring out what was in fitness that was helping me create more. And it was more so focusing on the here and now. So everything I have a here and now, that could be reading, could be meditating people, it could be taking your 5 minutes of tea. Just being in the here and now allows you to have the potential to hear or connect, versus having that loud, noisy brain of, I'm eating and I'm texting and I'm doing this. You're doing 3 things at once. I need you to be in the here and now so you can recognize the voice of the creator. So that's how I viewed this. So what about you, Daryl?
That's pretty amazing. Wow.
How did
Okay.
fitness?
It's funny you should mention the book of Job.
Yeah.
Because a little boy opened up the book of Job and he said, Daddy, it says job here. You need one.
Okay. I'm sorry, FL. I'm sorry, but just.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I got it though, Daryl. I enjoyed that.
I understood it, but
he's like wah wah. but Daryl, yeah, for you, let's repeat the question in this case.
Yeah.
So, how do you link your spirituality to your fitness? Because, like you said,
a lot.
I'm interested in hearing this.
Great deal. I interlock, not equate. I interlock my fitness with my spirituality, because without him or the person that you think possibly could have created you, in your case, Chris, without that person, I would not have the strength to even walk into a fitness facility, to even run, or even think about walking around a track. I would not have that motivation, that okay, we're not even going to talk about the mental thing. We're going to talk about the physical. Without him, I would be incapacitated. And I'm not saying that people that are not doing well do not believe in the Lord or a higher power, as you would say, Chris. But I think that in my case, he's definitely been on my side. Because I know people that are way younger than me who have not seen their 40th or their 50th. That's as far as I'm going.
Okay.
Let me come back to this though.
Yeah.
So I understand the idea of that, right? But what I want to do is I want to focus in on, because what it sounds like is you have a swirling of spirituality, and the funnel, at least from what you said, Otis, the funnel was like, or the linker is like through fitness, right? If that's a fair way to say it, like you can, it sort of bleeds into other things, most definitely, but you found it through fitness.
Yes.
And I'm wondering how, like for you, Daryl, if it's the same thing, or if like, how does because I understand your spirituality. I totally get what you're talking about in terms of generalities, right? Just generally living, understanding, and just a sense of being. But when we talk about the idea of fitness, like I was always questioning how you guys always linked it. I understand a little bit more about what you're talking about. But how do you link it? The spirituality to your fitness, how? Like what links it? How do you explain that to me? Explain it to me.
Break it down.
Oh, that was to me. Okay.
Actually, no, that was to you, Daryl, because like Otis has already explained it to me. Okay. You did not. I need to hear about that from you.
How does it? I thought I did. That the person or being that I feel is governing my life has given me the strength, capacity, and emotional fortitude to sustain what I need to do for me to be this age, to keep sane.
Okay.
Because there's been times in my life, such as the hardship podcast, that rightfully I should have gone crazy. I'm a little off now, but I feel that the person that I choose to be my governor has helped me so much. You have even said, Chris, God, the things you get into, my God. And every time I say, yeah, but I always get out.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
And I attribute that to a person that is governing and how well I feel. Right now, simple, stupid little stuff. I have a pain every time I open my hand. That's carpal thing. It's a carpal thing. And that started a day ago. I know it'll go away. But at the same time, I know it might possibly be an age factor. And at the same time, I also feel there are a lot of people that have not even made it to 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds. And I have to say, I am grateful to the person that I like to call my God for sustaining me, for keeping me here for a reason.
Got it. If I'm gonna try to summarize it, and maybe so I can understand it. This is not for anyone else, but for me. So fitness is spirituality for you. Because of your spirituality, you're grateful of what has allowed you
to do it.
What you're able to do physically
at this age.
At this age, it has allowed you to do that. So you become grateful everything you have given on this realm, on this earth, in this avatar of a body that you have right now. You're grateful.
I like that avatar of a body.
That's what it is. You're just borrowing the body.
I like that too. Avatar of a body. I like that. I gotta use it.
So that's what you are grateful for, of having the opportunity to still utilize your body in whatever manner you want, fitness or recreational or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. So I'm gonna throw a question towards Chris. So
Please.
since you are not since you are not the not so deep into it, what is one or two ways that you feel that someone can try to introduce slowly, but into religions and not religions, but more into spirituality and fitness, where it doesn't seem like you have to be too religiously, but you still can connect with a higher being? So I'm going to clean that question up for you. In other words, what are one or two strategies you could give anyone that's trying to connect with a higher being without feeling too religionary?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was literally going to throw a question at you guys about what would you say to naysayers who are like, okay, you got to talk about all this religious stuff, but like, how does that connect to me? How can you bridge that gap to me? So, okay. So for every finger that points one way, 3 point back. The question is back at me, and I'll take it. So I just want to give a little bit of context before I go on with this. And the small context will be that, like, the reason why I consider myself more agnostic is because I think I used to consider myself a believer, and I have more doubts and questions. So I don't know, and I recognize that. I'm not judging whether I'm not that. I know what I am in terms of being agnostic, because I don't know certain things. I don't pretend to know. And so, and again, for those who may not follow, but for those who do, there are two types of agnostics. They're the agnostics who practice because they don't know, but it's like a just in case scenario. And they're the agnostics who don't necessarily practice because it's like, I don't know, and I'm not going to sort of go through the means of that. So I sort of fell from.
I get it. Why does an agnostic practice if he's not sure to believe?
Because that's the practice. They're acculturated into it. Like, if your family is religious, if you've been in sort of, not to use the indoctrinated word as in negative, but if you're indoctrinated or if you've been raised to believe a certain thing, right? If you start having questions, then you personally know that you may not feel a sort of connection that other people feel. You have more questions than the average person who's in your situation, and you still practice it because it's an acculturation. It's not just, I have questions and I feel disconnected. It's all the ways that you learn to practice things, from the reading of maybe the Bible, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, whichever you choose. Like, whatever religious text you're used to reading, you read it. It may not speak to you the same way as others. You're like, well, do you get that? True. I may not. But the idea is, like, I practice through it to see if there's going to be some clarity, versus where there are others who may make the other leap. It's just like, I don't get it, and I'm not going to practice anymore. So what I'm saying is, for me, to start to answer the question, I was at one point or another practicing, but sort of like confused. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own study. I'm not going by the tenets of the religious structure that I've been set up with. I'm going to look outside and still, like, have my questions and not know. And so for me, one of the ways that I started, and one of the ways that you could probably sort of attract me, was the people who I connect with, the people who I care about and who I love. The majority of them have some form of religious and spiritual connection. They have religious backgrounds in terms of the context, and the religion, the spiritual element comes over where there's a connection between what they do, the type of person that they are, and the way that they've been raised and their spirituality. They link it all together. And I'm like, I respect that. I think I'll start off with this. At one point or another in Medgar Evers College, there was a professor who was the questioner upon questioner of religion. He was a hard criticizer of it. And when we spoke, he was like, yeah, I believe. And I was like, I couldn't believe.
Was it that English professor?
No, not the one that you're talking about, but it was my history professor who had shown me that there's a possible way to think about these things while believing at the same time, and also being able to objectively look at them. And I was like, I gave me a lot of respect. So I respected him. So a lot of the people in these communities that you want to connect to, like if you're like, hey, you're not necessarily a believer, the words may not necessarily resonate, but it's the actions that you do that will. The character and the people that you guys are has shown me enough that if there is something that's there, then there is something that's fantastic. And that's the way that I see it. Like, you know what, you guys are examples of what it's supposed to be. And I'm like, and I respect that. I'll say that. Like, you know what? Okay, if I have questions, you guys are possibly this.
We're not examples of what it should supposed to be. We are examples of what we aspire it to be.
All right, guys, you know, listening to you guys has been rather helpful. So I have one more question for you guys. So you guys are fitness experts. How do you use your spirituality to connect and help with other people?
Oh, that's a hell of a question.
I know.
That's a hell of a question. It really was. How do I help with others with my spirituality?
So, how does your spirituality help you connect and help others? Yeah.
Through fitness.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with someone, whether a client or a patient and stuff of that nature, I try to help them understand to quiet their mind. With spirituality, you need to quiet your mind to have a conversation. You can't have a one-way conversation if you're always talking. So I try to get them to internalize that in their brain, to quiet their mind, quiet their body. And once they're able to do that, they're able to understand their body more. They're able to communicate with their body more. So if they have high tension in a particular part, so if their shoulder's hurting and they're always doing certain movement because their shoulder hurt, I'm trying to teach them to relax that part. This is the whole technique of relaxing, to relax that part, to allow it to ease off the tension so you'll be able to move, so it can speak to you in a different way besides it hurts, pain, pain, pain. So I use spirituality, different techniques of breathing, of meditating, like simple, quick meditation, stuff of that nature, to get them to link their body into self, to help them with their fitness issue or their fitness obstacles. So I keep it real simple like that. So D, how do you do yours?
I'm glad you asked that question. I've had clients in the past that have said, oh my God, I never thought I could do that. Oh my God, I feel this, I feel never. And then I ask them, do you think that it was meant for us to be together? They say, oh yes, you're wonderful. Well, do you think that there might have been a greater plan for us to be together? And I honestly believe that. Whether it's fitness or whatever, it has helped. The fitness aspect has helped me physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And there's been times when I didn't want to even go to work out or to take a walk or to run the track. And I said, person, please help me feel better the next day. And I gunned through it. You know, they say 90% of doing something is getting through the door. So I believe he helped me that 90%.
Very good.
In turn, that helps you like link to your clients in terms of helping with the fitness, like how you serve other people, sort of having that understanding.
No doubt.
That's interesting.
Very good.
This has been interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. So I'm gonna kind of wrap this up for everyone. So based on the conversation we just had, there is a distinct difference between religion and spirituality. How all three of us are linking spirituality with fitness is different. How I do it is different from Dara. It's different from Chris. It might be different for you, but the main point is make sure you try to incorporate some type of spirituality in your fitness, in your goals. Try to be in the here and now, whatever you're doing. Try to understand and at least entertain the idea that there is a higher being or universe, however you want to word it, that will help guide you through it. And try to use fitness, your physical form down here, to express whatever is trying to be told through you. That can mean many different things, but try your best to tune that, invite yourself to it, and be open-minded to it. So this is the O.C.D podcast. This has been a little bit different, but still fitness. I love these gentlemen. So if you really want to kind of speak to us again about this, a little deeper topic, you can always reach out to us at Instagram on O.C.D Versus, Facebook at O.C.D crew. Yes, I got it right, Daryl. Yes. Also, you can view us on YouTube. Make sure you click and subscribe on the channel. If you want to email us, you can email us at ocdversus@gmail.com about any questions you have, any conversations, or any rants you want to give us. It's okay. We're open to it.
Let's go. Yep.
So take care. This is peace and love, everyone. Be safe. Enjoy your life.